Hello Dance On family, and welcome to our first episode of Dance On TV. We are so excited to have this medium to tell you a little bit about our cause, to have some incredible people attend our show, from dance icons to celebrities, all here to tell their story. We are incredibly humbled by our first guest. Our first guest will be Ebrin R. Stanley, who played the role of James Madison and Hercules Mulligan in Hamilton, the dance musical. Thank you so much, Ebrin, for being on our show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So I was reading through your resume, and obviously Hamilton, and then all the acting roles that you played, Javert in Les Miserables, and Victor Frankenstein in Young Frankenstein. And I have just one burning question. How does a man from Houston, Texas, get to the University of South Dakota?
Yeah, you know, it's a weird story, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm at this performing arts high school in Houston, Texas, and every year going into your senior year, we go to Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, and we have this thing called International Thespian Festival. So kids from all over who love theater go to this festival, and then we audition for 40 plus colleges. And one of the colleges that were there was University of South Dakota. So I had auditioned for all these colleges. I got callbacks for a lot of colleges, but they were all taken. So like NYU, Webster. But the one that was open was University of South Dakota.
Right, so they're lost.
So they're lost, yeah. So, you know, so I walked over to this table because I saw that they were doing Rent the same year that we were doing Rent at our high school. And so for me in life, I like to kind of connect certain things. And I was like, all right, well, let's just check it out. And then I checked it out, and a lot of things just kind of lined up. And I really fell in love with the teacher who was there, and she just kind of fell in love with me, and before I knew it, I was talking to the music theater director, and I signed, and I got in on the spot.
And before we go further back into you know, your development, I did notice that in the list of plays that you did, what a wide array, from Romeo and Juliet, obviously Shakespeare, to some of the more kind of tongue-in-cheek roles like Young Frankenstein, to the very deep and somber role like Javert and Les Mis. Anything appeal to you? That does one role mean more to you, or is it the fact that it is so wide array that's the attraction?
Well, I think the attraction is that it is wide array. You know, I think for me, I can't be considered an actor if I can't do it all. Right. You know, so the thing about my training, the thing about what I like, is that I can tap into all these different people. And of course, as an actor, we love the drama the most. But I think it's so much fun when I can go from Javert from one year, and then the following year I'm on stage as Victor Frankenstein playing this old guy who's doing high kicks. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a crazy thing. So I think I really love the fact that you can tap into so many different things, and you have to do it so fast, especially in college. I think it really prepares you for how I view what I do now from doing shows and then going to auditions. Right. You know, like while doing Hamilton or while wrapping up Hamilton, I still am in the Mulligan Madison mind, but I'm still going to these auditions where I have to tap into somebody totally different. So to have that, you know, is a beautiful thing, because I also title into how humans are. We have so many different emotions. We do. You know, whatever emotion you're using that day is what you have to use for that character. And that's how I kind of view it. That's
amazing. Yeah. Well, what a great experience for you, right? So let's go back to Houston, Texas. Let's go back to the performing arts school. So how does a young Ebrin get interested or get involved in musical theater, dancing, piano, right? Who got you started, or did you pick up on an influence that was around you?
So my great-grandmother got me started at 3.5, 4 years old. I don't know why, but she, you know, she was like, you need to get this boy into some piano lessons ASAP.
All right, so it started with music.
It started with music. It started with music. So I started taking piano lessons at a very young age, and then before you knew it, I was singing in church. I was giving speeches in school. I was doing assemblies in school. Okay. But I was still a sports guy, true to my heart. I was always a basketball and a football fan, and I always played that, whether it was like Little League, whether it was like for the actual school, that was always me. And it wasn't until I got to middle school where, shout out to Miss Wiggins, my choir teacher.
All right, Miss Wiggins.
Miss Wiggins, yeah, if you're watching. But no, like Miss Wiggins, she was my choir teacher, and she was the one to be like, hey, you have a lot of charisma, you have a lot of talent, and I know you love sports, I know you want to be a pediatric nurse, but I really think you should try for this performing arts high school.
Obviously you had somebody who stepped in at a certain point of your life, pivotal. Did you have to give up the sports at that point? Did you have to make a decision just from timing perspective? I got to assume that the pull from being devoted to various teams and then maybe pursuing this idea
Yeah.
made you make a decision, or could you do both at the same time?
No, I did. I had to make a decision because at the time, you know, I wanted to be a pediatric nurse, and everybody in the family loves when you want to be in like the medical field.
Sure.
That's where the most money is.
Right.
You know, but for me, it was between that, and then at the same time, I was in the middle of being recruited for a football team at a high school. Football in high school is huge in Texas.
But even the high schools are huge in Texas, right?
Yes, they're huge.
small.
They're huge. And like you have to apply to get into them. Like that was also the thing about it. Like if you weren't zoned to the school, you had to apply.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's like a huge thing. So I had medical school, I had the football opportunity, and then my choir teacher wanted me to do the performing arts high school. And, you know, I'm somebody who's like, I will just do something on the fly whenever I want to. But I was really faced with something because, you know, it was either going to this medical school, which made everybody happy, or it was going to play football, which like made somebody happy. It wasn't really my thing, but I was good at it. And then it was, wait, this teacher actually believed in me and pointed this thing out about me. And what is it that she saw that made her go, hey, let me point this one student out of all the students who were very talented in that choir to be like, give this a shot. And so that's really what it came down to, was what was gonna make me happy. And after doing the audition and beating out 600 kids to make the top 30 for high school.
Right.
For high school.
Right. So the theme through all of that, though, is the competition, right? I could hear that in you, that there's a competitive thread even to the artistic side of you, that, hey, I did something better than others, and not at the detriment of anyone, but that made you feel good.
Yeah, respectfully, I don't look at things as a competition. Okay. Respectfully, I don't. And I think this is where, you know, a lot of artists, I don't want to say get in trouble, but they tend to fall into a trap. You know, the minute that I feel something is a competition, I don't want to do it. The minute I feel like I have to compete to get something, I don't want to do it. Because you're never going to be better than me, I'm never going to be better than you. Right. I can only be better than myself, than I was before. And that's how I view it. Because if I'm continuously worried about somebody else, I'm going outside of my lane.
Although, if I could counter that a little bit, you do have to audition for a role that 30 or 40 other people. So maybe your point is, I'm just competing with myself to be the best at that. I can't worry about the 29 guys behind me because unlike football, you can't play defense on that, right?
Right. So, you know, if you can't worry about that person, I also can't worry about who's auditioning me. Right. Because at the end of the day, since I've been behind the table and in front of the table, I've come to realize you're rooting for everybody. They want to find the right person for that role. I just may not be it that day. Right. And there's been plenty of times I've been told no, and I looked at the other people and I ended up saying who got the role, and I was like, yep, nowhere near what they were looking for. I'm nowhere near what they were looking for.
Got it. When we get to the point of you now throwing yourself into, let's be honest, a non-stereotypical gender role for a guy, right? Mm-hmm. So a male role, you're going to musical theater, you're going into, now you're learning dance. Any challenges of that growing up? Did you know, in this day and age where there's so much growth in so many different things, people are more environmentally conscious, people seem to be more sociologically conscious. I feel like bullying seems to be something we've missed over the last years. In fact, social media, I feel, has kind of weaponized that almost a little bit. Any experience like that, Ebrin, growing up? Did you feel that, why aren't you playing, tight end for our team?
I got a little bit of that once, a lot. So the guys that I grew up with, the friends that I grew up with, we were very much so the boys of the boys, the homies of the homies, if so to speak. And I think it was a shock to them when I went full-on musical theater. You know, when I came back to visit my old neighborhood, because we ended up kind of moving when I went to the Performing Arts High School to be closer. And so when I came back to where a lot of my middle school friends were, they were like, wait, what are you doing? Nah, twinkle toes sort of thing. And so, it was a little bit.
Seems innocent.
It seems innocent, but to a point, it definitely played on my psyche, because I was like, this is what's making me happy, and one day I'm gonna make more money than you, so back off. But that was also a young me trying to defend himself. But I was also somebody who's just listen, I've always done stuff that I believe in. I've always rooted for the underdog. I've always rooted for people who do something that's outside of the box, that's not as conventional as society would see it, which is very unfortunate, because there are a lot of beautiful male artists who are still quote unquote masculine. It doesn't matter. My thing is, whatever makes you happy, that's what people should root for. Whatever makes the person comfortable, that's what other people should root for. So yeah, I definitely experienced it, but I also had to make the conscious decision to overcome it and realize that what I'm doing is making me happy, and that's what it is.
And I'm gonna guess, moving to the performing arts school where you had other people like yourself, probably helped a little bit as well, because now you're with other like-minded males who are starting out, who are trying to find their way, and it kind of creates a brotherhood there.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It creates a brotherhood. It creates a sense of like you're not alone, and also it kind of challenges you to want to let everybody else know that this is a different world, but that it can be a part of your world. Because the thing is, the same people who make fun of it are the same people who are going to the movie theaters to see it.
Yeah, they're the same ones in the audience watching you. Yeah.
So to me, it's always like, sometimes I think, maybe it's just envy that, you know, I want to be able to do something like that. But to know that there is a community where it's such a strong support system, no matter what it is, it's such a beautiful thing to have. And so I'm always grateful, always have been grateful, and continue to be grateful for the artist community, because it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
That is awesome. Okay, so we moved from Houston to your decision to go into musical theater and then the performing arts school. You attended some sessions that got you involved in college. Talk to me a little bit about college. Now you're really in kind of the next level of talent, right? You get to experiment a little bit with different types of styles. How was that, those 4 years there at South Dakota?
Honestly, those 4 years were probably the best and worst 4 years of my life, truthfully. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think college is supposed to teach you a lot. College is supposed to help you. And at this particular point in my life, where I was coming from such a big city to such a small, like, college town like South Dakota, I had a lot to learn. You know, culturally, I had a lot to learn about myself. You know, what's acceptable in Houston is not acceptable everywhere else. You know, what's read this way is not read that way. Like, and I really had to just kind of broaden my horizon on the rest of the world, just like they had to also broaden their horizon on me. You know, I was the one full-blooded black guy in that musical theater department, and even that just played the thing itself. Like, I got the opportunity to play Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar my senior year, and there was actually a protest in like 30 minutes away from our college at this church
because of that decision.
Because of a black Jesus. And it was like an article in a newspaper, and somebody saw my mom at one of the shows that she came to see me in, and they were like, "Is your son okay?" And she was like, "What happened?" You know, we didn't hear about it. And she was like, "What happened?" And then they showed her the article, and it was literally like, they were very upset.
Well, think of it as a parent, and I'm a parent of a young male dancer. Yeah. It's very hard to watch your child, in this case a young man, go through that without wanting to do something. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to let them figure it out like you did.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was one of those things that, you know, I mean, nobody, thank God, did anything, you know, they didn't come to the school or whatever, but it was definitely word of mouth. But luckily that was, again, the community was great, because they saw that, like, the leader of the show, or just like, you know, a guy who they really cared about was kind of under attack in a way. And so, you know, everybody just came and was like, "We got you, we're good, nothing's gonna happen, we're all prepared." And I'm like, honestly, it's fine.
What an amazing community.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so, you know, those moments like that where you really get a sense of like family are great times in college, you know. And so I think the best thing about college for me was that I learned a lot and grew a lot as an artist, but also as a human. And my thing is, like, without the human being in me, I can't be an artist. Sure. You know, I can't be able to tap into all of those things without knowing who I am.
So 4 years of just incredible personal growth, and then obviously artistic growth as well. So then we'll flash forward a little bit here, Ebrin. I think if I followed it right, back to Houston for a little bit to I think work with children. It sounded like, right?
Yeah, that actually I would like to talk about this part, because this is a very significant part of my life, which kind of made me want to shape how I want to leave my legacy here on this world. When I was 18 years old, before going to college, I graduated from high school. I needed a job. I wanted a job, and I was a theater counselor at a camp called Main Street Theater in Houston for like 2 years. And then this year, I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to actually have my first acting gig before going to college. And the Children's Museum of Houston, which I grew up at, they started a nonprofit small organization by Kathy. Hi, Kathy. And she was looking for actors. She was looking for high school actors. And I auditioned, and I fell in love with it because it was so bad. It was terrible. I had to wear the styrofoam box that was shaped like a robot, and it was...
I'm sure you pulled it off, though.
I hope so. You know, like, kids were just, like, kicking you and hitting you, you know, because you had to meet and greet after the show. But then the shows got better each year. Okay. And so
were you able to influence that a little bit?
I was. So yeah, and this is kind of where like this next part comes in, is that, you know, I started off as an actor there, you know, just very green, very don't know what's going on. I met a lot of cool people, and we did the show for 3 months, and it was every day, 8 days a week, for 3 times a day. It was like a 30-minute show, and you did it, and didn't pay anything, but that's all right. But we did the show, and then the next year I heard they were doing it after my first year of college, but I did a different theater company. I went to a regional theater called Black Hills Playhouse. Then the following year, something in me was like, I gotta go back and see what's going on at this children's theater, because something in me just kept thinking about it, and I kept in touch with the lady. They had hired me to host things at the museum. I was like, what are they doing for the show? And then I came back and did the show, and then they promoted me. So then I became a director, and then I became a choreographer for the show. And then to top it all off, when I was in New York, which I'm sure we're gonna talk about soon, I came back home after I graduated. And that's when I was a director and choreographer of the show.
So the prodigal son comes back from...
I came back from college, and everybody's very happy, but I told him this is probably my last time I'm gonna be with you, because it's time for me to move to New York. My agents were ready for me to come out there, you know, shows ready for auditions. And I got very sad. I watched a lot of these kids now who were with me as actors or who were auditioning for me. Now they're working with/for me. And so it was a very cool thing, but I was happy to leave my mark with that. But then they called me one more time. So I was in New York, and then she calls me, she's like, we have a holiday show coming up.
I smell a return.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm broke, I'm homeless, I wanna come home for the holidays. I'll come, how much you paying? And so she was like, I'll pay you this much, and I said, oh, really?
Right.
And
That's
so,
north of zero.
Right,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm negative 25 in my account right now. And so I was like, great. I was like, I'll fly out, you know, I'm flying in the stay. I can only, and at this time I was doing a workshop in New York that only paid $100 for 3 months. It was a stipend of $100.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, cool, we're off for like these 2 weeks. I can be there, but I got to be right back. Like I can only put up the show, see the first show, and then I fly right back to New York. And so she was like, great. And I was like, but I have one condition. I want to write a song for the show. And so because every time I do something, I want to make sure that I'm always elevating each time. So I started off as an actor. I did the choreography. I did the direction and choreography. And then, you know, I became a supervisor for the company. And so like now I'm watching this company, like, I want to write something for this show. And then they let me write an original song for the show.
And I want to touch on your music writing in a minute. I want to pull on this thread, because you've mentioned Mrs. Wiggins, your grandma, Kathy.
Yeah.
A lot of women in your life at certain points.
Mama. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
A lot of women in your life at certain pivotal moments directing you, giving you support.
I think they definitely shaped me.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like I go to therapy, and we're actually touching on this right now, which is why this is a perfect like interview, because we're talking about my life story. And I talk a lot, so this is the 3rd consecutive week that we're finally on part 3 out of like 5.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, you know, and one of the things that I've always noticed since we've been talking about this is that nothing but women have shaped each era that I've been in. Like it was a woman who, in my elementary school, my charter school that I went to, she was the one who got me in speeches and always made sure I was in an assembly. My great-grandmother with the piano, my mom with the singing lessons, the teacher who believed in me, Miss Wiggins, Miss Beverly Till, the principal of the middle school, who I was the last student they accepted into the magnet program. They weren't accepting any more students. They had told everybody no that day, but my mom walked through and they said, fine, we'll take them. For whatever reason, that lady's heart was like, we'll take them, which is great, because the other school I was going to go to was not cool. And then Miss Jennings at my performing arts high school, and then Miss Priscilla Hagen, Professor Hagen, for college. And so it's always been that that has shaped me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I like
weird.
that.
Yeah.
I like that. So let us flash.
Go women.
Go women. So let us flash forward to Hamilton in New York.
Yeah.
So take us through that.
Yeah, so the Hamilton process was crazy. So my senior year of college, I went to New York for this thing called the New York Showcase. And we also, with the showcase, we got to audition for agents and whatnot, but we also did workshops for casting agencies. Okay. And so word on the street, we knew it was coming that one of the casting agencies that were going to be there, they cast Hamilton. And so, you know, I already knew what I was going to sing, which was the song Glory from John Legend and Common, which you both can rap and sing in. So I knew what I was going to do. And so we got to that workshop, and I did the song, and the first thing the guy says after I get through, he goes, oh, so you know what you're doing? And I said, why, yes, I do. And
wow, what a confidence boost
yeah,
that is, right?
yeah. And so, you know, and so then he gave me little notes, and I redid the song. He was like, cool, cool. And I was like, great, great. Right. And then a week later, I'm in my makeup class in college, sitting right there. Of course, I have my phone out because phones. And then I see on like the front screen, Hamilton would like for you to send in a tape. And I freaked. I showed my
I'm
friend.
freaking out right now. I'm
showed
not even in the play.
Yeah, and I haven't graduated yet. We had just gotten back. We just got back, and I got that email, and then I just like freaked out. I ran out of class to call my mom with like half the scary makeup on, and I was like, Mom, you won't believe what just happened. And she was like, what are you gonna do? What do they want you to sing? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't read the email. I just saw the thing. She was like, well, open the email, son. So I finally opened the email, and and then I went and told my professor, I was like, we got to make sure this is the perfect thing. And they were like, great, we're gonna rent out the theater, and we're gonna set up. Like, this is a setup. They had it set up for me. My best friend came to watch me and support me, and we recorded the video and we sent it off. That was very exciting, right?
Yes.
I didn't hear anything for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't hear anything.
Welcome to auditions.
Welcome to auditions, and that was my first like big one. And so I was like, oh, this is gonna be like expedited. And at this time I had this agent who wanted to hire me, so I was like, hey, just so you know, this is like happening. And he's like, you probably won't hear anything. And I was like, fine. But I was very eager. I was very eager. And so I started emailing the email that I sent. And I was like, hey, just letting you know I sent it.
Good for you.
Did you read it? Did you open it? They actually responded, and they were like, yeah, when are you going to be in the city? And I was like, I'll be in whenever you need me. And this is why.
Which is the right answer.
Which is the right answer.
Yeah.
And so I still didn't hear anything. They stopped responding to all my emails. And but fast forward, I'm in New York. I had probably done only like 2 auditions. I was in the middle of finishing that workshop that only paid $100. And I don't mean to disrespect the workshop. It was a great workshop, great opportunity. A friend of mine wrote the show. And it ended up being a cast from Houston. All of us were in New York actors, but it was all Houston people.
Well, that's good. That gives you a little
it was
camaraderie,
home.
right?
Yeah, it was home. And it was funny because we all ended up flying home for the holidays at the same time. But yeah, and so January 11th is when I got an email being like, hey, we want you to come in and read for Mulligan Madison. And I was like,
yeah, not one of the secondary characters,
no,
by the way.
Mulligan Madison. And so I was like, cool. And so I called my mom again, and I was like on a subway at the time, and of course signals were like going in and out.
Sure.
But I went in, and then I didn't hear anything for a month. So like the process is already like a year, year and a half at this point. And so I didn't hear anything for a month, and then before you knew it, my agent was like, yo, you're in. Whatever you're doing, they want to see you again. And I was like, okay. So they saw me again. And she was like, cool, now they have a work session. Great, I'm back in again. And then they were like, what are you doing such and such week? And I was like, nothing, I'm working, I guess. And they were like,
let me check my bank account, hold on.
Right,
Yes,
like
no,
I don't know.
I'm not doing anything.
I'm not doing anything, yeah, I'm free. And they were like, great, keep this day open. It was like a Tuesday, I'll never forget it. They were like, and I had just come out of, this is the part that's funny.
I love that you remember it's a Tuesday.
Oh, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was a
Love
Tuesday
that.
because I had just come out of the Memphis, I was also auditioning for the show called Memphis in New York. And I just come out of the dance call. And that was my very first dance call in New York City.
Okay.
So I got a real taste of what a mover and what a dancer is like. I'm a mover. Right. I will never consider myself a full-on dancer.
You're very self-aware.
I'm very self-aware. You have to be.
Yeah.
And so I just came out, and my mom was like, how did it go? And I was like, I don't really know. Like, I feel like I'm going to get a call back, but there were some real dancers in here. And then I see a missed call from my agent, and she never calls me. They always email me. And so if you call, it's something serious. And so
serious good?
Serious
Usually good?
Either it's like the 411 or it's real good. Okay. Yeah, it's one or the other. And so I called her back, and I was like, hey, you called? She was like, yeah, Tommy Kell and Alex Lackamore want to like meet you and have a work session. And that's the director and the original orchestrator and music supervisor. And I was like, you mean Tony Award winning Tommy and Alex? Okay, cool. And I was like, when? She was like, that's what we don't know, but it's going to be Tuesday this day, and just leave this time slot open. Yeah. I was getting ready to fly back home because like I needed home for a minute. Sure. And so I was getting ready to fly back, but I was like, hey, I know I already have the ticket, but we got to make this ticket come right back around. So we heard me book another ticket to come back. Came back into the work session. They put me through the ringer. My work session with Tommy Kell and Alex was 45 minutes long. And it was 4 songs, and they also had me sing a song out of my rep book. Right. And then I left, and then my agent called me 2 hours later, and she was like, you got to be back next week on Thursday for a movement call. And I was like,
okay, it's not dance, it's just movement.
just
yes.
movement.
Yes.
Even though it was dance, like we
Right.
did the full choreography from my shot. Yeah. And so, but it was a one-on-one movement call. It wasn't with 50 million people, and I was very shocked. I didn't know what was happening. Right. But my agent, she just kept being like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. So I went in and bought some like new tennis shoes and like all this stuff. And before you knew it, I was doing this dance call, and then a week after the dance call, I got the call saying, you got the role, and you got 1 week to fly out to Chicago to start Mulligan Madison.
And then all these people in your life come flashing through, all these people that have impacted your life at the various times, and here you are going to Chicago now to be in what is quintessentially the most popular musical in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it is. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, because it's, you know, for me, no, thank you. Like for me, it was a show that everybody knew I loved as soon as it came out. It was a part of my 5-year goal. Like when I graduated, I was saying 5 years I'm going to be in this show, and it happened in 8 months. So it was very surreal, because in the moment you're very excited. You're very excited that your dreams are coming true. But then also, like you say, you think about the people who like got you there, and you think about what does this mean, and then you know you start to get phone calls for interviews, and you start to go into rehearsals, and then I got on the stage for the first time, and I wasn't even rehearsing yet, and I just started crying. It was just a walkthrough of the stage, because I was like, literally in a month, I'm going to be performing right here with people that I had admired from Broadway. Like I was working with Montego Glover, Miguel Cervantes, Andrew Cole, everybody whose career that I had followed, and now I'm here. And life has never been the same ever since.
No, it hasn't, because now you get weird dance dads calling you up and interviewing you now for his show.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me at the end of the run how emotional the city was. Yeah. I was watching the newscast because I was unfortunately could not get tickets to the last show, and watching people openly weep out on the street because it was a sense of loss. You're losing a friend. The cast of Hamilton, including yourself, Ebrin, because I got to feel that personally by you doing our master classes and the impact that you had on the children, but you guys were a part of the city. You weren't just a play. Yeah. You really, I saw that, you know, Laurie's Children's Hospital, right? Again, our master class, it was funny, you talking through your auditions. I remember what you guys had said to some of the students who had prepared Hamilton, I'm sorry, had prepared their own music, and then you said, no, we're going to sing this today, and by the way, welcome to auditions. You think you're coming in with something, and I'm preparing you for something else. The lessons there, and I want to leave you with this before we move on to the next topic of where you're going, is I think I shared with this, one of the students that you had, you impacted them, you specifically impacted them so much that they immediately canceled all their applications to other colleges other than performing arts colleges, because they knew in that moment that that's what they wanted to be, because you had that impact. So that must be an amazing feeling for you.
Yeah, man. No, any time that somebody wants to join the arts, I'm all for it. And honestly, one of the main reasons I ever wanted to do this, and the reason I actually want to have my own theater company, like 4 kids now, and just continue to work with kids. I know that's we'll get there, we'll get there. No, but you know, it's because of stuff like that. That's why I'm always reaching out to do master classes. That's why I'm always doing lessons for like kids and stuff, is because there's so many kids who have expressions that they want to get out that they may not necessarily have the outlet to do it. And so if I can ever be a person to help them with that, I'm always here for it. Because I didn't realize how much the arts were gonna help me. And they have helped me in a major way and have that outlet. So I'm always...
Well, you're now, as much as this is not gonna sound right, you are now the Mrs. Wiggins for somebody else. Right? So let's pull on that thread. Theater company. Yeah. You released an album in September.
I did.
Christmas music in December. Yeah. You have Hamilton somewhat in the rearview mirror. Yeah. What's 2020 holding for you? Where are we going?
2020 is holding a lot. You know, right now we are in the middle of a few callbacks, by a few I mean 2, for a new show and then for a Broadway show potentially. So we're waiting for that and finishing that process up. I'm right now currently choreographing and producing a new works called Notes and Letters that's happening at the Underscore Theater Company in Chicago. A couple of more master classes.
I can't thank you enough for coming in and doing our show today. It means so much, and I think the artists that are watching, the ones that are young, and even the ones that are struggling through the audition process, could get a lot of confidence that there's light at the end of the tunnel for them.
There is, and if I can like ever so slightly just leave with something, you know, one thing I'm starting to learn, and one thing just from like talking to a lot of actors when we were getting ready to close Hamilton, everybody's trying to look for that next gig and how fast that next gig gonna come, you know, be patient for everything, be anxious about nothing, and when it's your time, you know, and I'm really starting to like stick with that and live with that, and when it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
It's so true, and I'll just build on that with our closing point, is that no matter what the struggle is, everyone, artistic-wise or in any facet of life, just continue to dance on. Yeah. And thank you, Ebrin Stanley, for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Hello, Dance On family. The segment that you just saw was filmed a few weeks ago, and we were in receipt of some unfortunate news. A young girl named Grace, who hosted Ebrin Stanley's first fan page, took her life and was a victim of bullying. We send out our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to her and her family, and ask that you help us continue to shine a light on anti-bullying. Thank you for watching.